All right, so the front door's been shut, the furnace been lit, and everything else in the house is ready. What now? We have been saying for a long time that we are very skeptical about the way things were going with the Diddy case. And we have done some reactions to certain individuals that has just been off the wall excited about the fact that Diddy was going to go down. It was all over. This is the end game. And I mean, any fatalist point of view you could possibly take was taken by this creator. Now, we're not here to dog this creator. We are here to plead with creators like this one, as well as this creator. Now, I'm thinking that you should know who this creator is from the mentioning of the front door being shut and sit down, and we got everything, and Diddy's going down. Many people say we need to leave her alone, and it is not that we're trying to downplay anything they do. Let's be honest, they jump on a lot of things before most people do. Awesome job. Good, wonderful. However, emotionality has always been a problem for people who want to get something out first instead of getting it out right. This is where our plea comes in. Getting people's hopes up about something simply out of emotion is not enough to be a proper person when it comes to news. News should be based on something factual. Whether that proves one side or the other, it does not matter when it comes to news. News, by its own definition, is unbiased. It should be unbiased, I should say. With this Diddy case, proof to us is this: no matter how much we wish for something to happen, just because you wish it does not mean it will come true. Wishing only goes so far. There is a portion of life that has to happen in reality for it to go forward. When we reacted to certain things that Tisa Tells would tell us, people thought that we were not being gracious enough, or that we were on Diddy's side. Even in her latest video, anybody that would come against her, she thought that was going against the victims. That was not the case. If we saw something that was blatantly not being proven and we called it out, we hated the victims. So because I see something that can actually harm the victims, I'm against the victims. Let me tell you how it would harm the victim. If I get a victim's hopes up about something, only to have it dashed against the rocks, I have just made that victim's life that much harder. Why? Because I did something to them emotionally that would scar them even more. Instead of being honest with them and said, hey, look, I know you're a victim, but what the prosecution is doing could harm your case, and please be prepped for something to go south. That would do them more benefit than coming forward every day with the statement of, it is time, it is the end, he is going down, we finally have it, nail in the coffin, lock the door, get your coffee, bring out your tea. All that stuff is unnecessary, especially considering what just happened. And even with what just happened, they refused to face reality that what they were saying was a lie. Yep, was a lie. Not just salacious and not just excitable, it was a lie. The defense never had to prove a whole lot because the prosecution didn't do their job to begin with. They didn't. Now, one of the bigger issues that we saw that caused us to do this, that proved to us that maybe perhaps Tisa didn't know what she was talking about, was when this particular news broke that some charges were dropped. She mentioned something about it being a state charge being dropped. You know what? Y'all listen to it yourself and y'all tell me what you know about the case, if what she is saying makes any sense based on what was brought forward. Take a listen.
Hey, what's up, you guys? How y'all doing today? Well, baby, if your name is Tisa Tells, we need to set the record straight. I know a lot of people right now are saying the feds are folding, they're dropping charges, they're scared of their own witnesses. And yeah, on the surface, it looks like a retreat. But hold on, y'all. Because what if what they did today with dropping those state charges, those predicate acts, with dropping those state charges, those predicate acts? What if this is the opposite of panic? What if it is precision?
Now, Diddy's case was a federal. We're not going to mix the two of state and federal in one case. This was his federal charge. There was no way for them to drop a state charge during a federal case. So either she misspoke, we can give her that. If that's what happened, awesome. We understand it happens in when you get excited. Get it? But if you are genuinely believing that state charges were dropped because they were lesser, then something tells me that you didn't understand what the case was about. And if you didn't understand what the case was about, maybe you shouldn't be on the case, at least until you get your bearings about the case itself. What was dropped was indeed part of the federal charges against Diddy, which is a big problem because if you're dropping especially part of the human trafficking side, then quite possibly the jury's going to think, well, if you can drop part of it, what is going on with the rest of it? It would leave room for doubt, which would possibly make every bit of it go away. The problem with implementing emotionality into a factual case is that you can sometimes, most of the time, get it wrong. And the problem with getting it wrong in this situation, especially when you say you're going to bat for victims, is you give victims false hope. You give them such false hope that eventually they get hyped up on the same hype you're on, and the platform gets yanked from under them. Smash! You have just done more damage. You have inflicted more damage on top of what you believe Diddy did already. That is not being an advocate. That's being an adversary. Massive difference. Although your intentions might be completely pure and honest, and you really do want to help, you can't help with emotions. You have to stick with the fact. You have to stick with what's real. And you, as much as we both hope, listen, we both Tisa and I hoped that we would see the end of Diddy. The difference between us is this: we saw the writing on the wall that the prosecution was failing at their job. She saw it too, but was too enamored with the idea that he could go down, and her dislike for that man is what took precedence. We don't like Diddy neither, but as much as we don't like him, there are certain things that you can't say happened, especially if they didn't happen. Provably, the prosecution had their chance and they failed. I mean, exponentially failed at their job, spectacularly failed at their job. The defense didn't have to do much. For all the mistrials they were calling for, now it makes sense. It would be a mistrial, not because they didn't have grounds, was because the prosecution didn't seem to have grounds. Why are you bringing this to us? You don't seem to have an actual charge. You've been bringing people forward, and all they did was talk about what they felt. Let's move this to a mistrial. This is not going anywhere. Now, they have not as much legs to stand on. They're down to two. They become a biped now. If this keeps up, they'll eventually be becoming a unicycle rider, probably a pogo stick jumper. I don't. At this point, they don't have much to jump on. They might get some of the things to stick, might, but at the end of this case, it does not end up the way we were hoping. No matter how much we wished it, no matter how much we hyped it up, no matter how much of that came out, and as excited as we were to see this go to trial, the unfortunate reality is this. Like us or hate us for saying this, this is the unfortunate reality. Prosecution failed, and the defense didn't have to do much to make them fail. If you realize they didn't have much to do, they kind of just sat there and pointed out the obvious discrepancies. That's all they had to do. That tells me that the case from the beginning was not as foolproof as they presented it. In 2024, when they offered this up to us and they read it out for 10, 15 minutes about the charges, we all thought, man, there's no way he's beating this. And then we thought to ourselves, but hold on. If they have all that, why haven't they moved to do more? And then as time passed, we realized, hold on. They said they had gun charges and they haven't arrested him yet. And when they finally put him in the Huskow, we're like, well, hold on, though. Have they proven it's his? Do we have information that about any of this? Court case started. They never even touched on that. They never even mentioned what states were involved in this human trafficking arena. They mentioned some hotels, and they mentioned them paid for and damages. But where's the trafficking? Who was trafficked? How many people? At what time? To what ends? Not mentioned. But I understand. He's a bad guy. We want him off the streets. So we hype it up and we say things that aren't entirely true. And in some cases, blatantly lies. But they sound good and they herald back to 2024 and the court case that started this all. But in reality, it didn't bear out. Now, as for Tisa, I'm sure that she'll continue to do what she's doing. It's not an effort to try and stop her. All we're asking is to stop being so emotional about something when you can blatantly see it's not working out to be reality. We're not asking you to change anything about your personality, but at some point, reality has to win. We all want this particular individual to not do what he used to do because it is detrimental to people. We fully agree on that. The difference is we want it to stick. We don't want people just hyped up about it. We want tangible, provable, solid, and long lasting proof that he cannot escape from. And so far, prosecution didn't do that. And here we have charges being dropped. Not all, not all, not all, but quite a bit. And who knows, more still yet might come. Our advice is this: if you feel like still listening, you listen to whoever you listen to. As for here on Too Strong, as much as people might dislike our approach of having both sides of the situation covered, we know no other way. We have no other recourse when covering something this detrimental. Both sides have to be looked at in order for you to not be surprised by the most obvious thing in the room. Because if one side fails in bringing facts forward, the whole thing could go kaput. We don't want that. So we cover everything. We want to make sure that the audience has both sides and both sides in full. If Diddy was guilty, we want the prosecution to prove it. If Diddy is innocent, we want the defense to prove it. But the defense coming to us and said, just believe he's innocent, man. Why would Diddy? That's not proof. The prosecution come, he's guilty, man. Why would anybody not believe? That's not proof. Give it to me. Give it to me in detail so I can make my assessment about it, the same way that the jury is expecting it. This case has come from a full blown, he's gone, to, oh crap, things might be going south in one night. But not because the evidence said so. We let emotions get into it. And the moment we let emotions in, it was over for the social side of this thing. In either case, the salacious will always win over facts. And we've seen that before, right? Especially when it comes to victims. If you can sensationalize a victim, it seems to have more gravity. We look at cases like Othello. Look at Othello. Not sensational at all, right? No. There is no hoopla, no hype, none of that. Othello's case is just cut and dry. Facts, 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 facts. What happened to the Othello case? Nothing. Nothing. Nobody cared. It wasn't salacious enough. Nobody was interested in it. There's no hype to it. Not enough sensational big names attached to it, even though there were some names from the political realm. Not big enough. It needs to have celebrity. No celebrity names doesn't mean anything. That's the problem with the public now. We want everything to be out there. Like, yeah, give me some more. Give me a big name. Oh my gosh. He said what? Oh my, oh wow, oh, wow, 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 wow. No, the man's kid was just trafficked. He has proof that his kid was trafficked. He know who by whom he was trafficked. He know where the kid was at. He filed documents to get him. He did everything he could, but it wasn't sensational enough. Now we have Diddy. He had sex parties. Oh my gosh, what kind? Orgies. Oh my gosh, who was there? Oh, kids. Oh my gosh. Oh, baby oil. 1,000 bottles of. Oh my goodness. It'll always win. Unfortunately, it will. This is proof right here. Diddy's case went forward. It hit a brick wall because too many people expected something that wasn't there. We were lied to. We can admit that, right? Okay, the prosecution lied to us. They said they had stuff that they didn't bring forward. They said they had proof that wasn't provable. They said they had witnesses that didn't witness Jack. What do you want us to do about that? That's not us being biased. That's them being inadequate. You want me to feel bad for my take because the prosecution were dumb? No, I will not feel bad because the prosecution was stupid people. They were stupid in how they approached this. They failed us when they brought this case to us saying one thing and they didn't prove jack squat from it. And then we had people on the other side who were more entertaining than they were bringing factual stuff to us. And we believed that because it was fun. Now we mad. Why are you mad? We tried to tell you all this would happen. We've been shouting. We were We were pariahs because we were something this. We were Diddy defenders because we said this. We were being paid by Diddy because we said this was going to happen. Because y'all didn't want to listen to the facts on the table. Because you listened to the salacious, bloviated things. That's not on us. That's on y'all. Maybe this might be our lesson in understanding that facts will always prevail over feelings. Or it might not. We don't agree with the prosecution's approach, and we definitely don't like the outcome, but it is what it is. Now we get to see what will actually come to fruition. We'll see what happens. But it definitely won't be what we hoped, because he definitely won't get as much time now for sure. Some pretty big things were tossed out. Anyway, we thought we had to address this because the truth does matter. Reality matters way more than our feelings. And just because you want something doesn't mean you're going to get it. Sometimes you have to face the fact that not everything that glitters is gold. And some people lie for a living, even though they don't consider it lying. But again, there's still time, still ways to change, and still ways to correct. Please, if you do anything else, or you do nothing else, stop living by emotions. There's enough fact to bring you to a place of elation, but elation may not always lead you to fact. Elations can let you down. A lot of the time, that's all it ever does. Listen here, Tisa. We love your stuff, we do. You're entertaining. You're not hard on the eyes. So you have a good thing going. And what advice we got to give, inconsequential in the big run, possibly. But we'll still give it. It's out there. Do not let what you want to happen override what you see happening and what's tangible and factual. That's all we really have to tell you. It might sell, but it could hurt your credibility, especially when it shows up to be inadequate and inaccurate. Take it or leave it. You have now tangible proof that all the things you hope for is not coming to. And even if you try to put a spin on it now, it's not worth it. Facts are just the facts. We both want the same thing, but at the end of the day, what the prosecution did was horrendous. And we both need to be able to admit that. Hopefully this never happens again. Anybody else gets caught doing something nefarious should be brought to justice based on something that'll stick. And by the way, people, no state charges were dropped. I just want to make sure we know that this is federal. Okay? Cool. Anyway, we'll catch y'all later. Have a good one. And as much as this is unfortunate news, it's still news. Do with it as you will.